Hello everyone, Chaos here, and welcome to another old school RuneScape video. The other day I was browsing through my uploads, and like my 2023 bossing ladder, I realized that my latest profitable bosses guide is nearly 2 years old. We have had so many new bosses added since that I thought it would be a great idea to update this video and show you what the most profitable encounters are in old school RuneScape as of May of 2024, ranging from something chill to the sweatiest methods. Boys and girls, if you find today's video useful, remember to subscribe with notifications on and drop a like for the YouTube overlords. If you need any help with any of the following bosses, join our Discord with the link in the description. Today I'm going to show you 15 different bosses divided in 3 categories. 5 of them are consistent GP, and you don't really need max levels or gear to defeat them. 5 of them require slightly higher levels and gear to use, so you know what to aim for when you have money for upgrades. And the final 5 have the same requirements as before, but the only difference is that most of their profit will come from their big ticket items, in case you are feeling lucky. Remember that all of the GP per hour you see for each boss is a rough estimate and depends on luck and performance. Towards the bottom of the screen you will see what items are crucial to defeat each boss, and I will tell you some of the key upgrades you need to slay them much faster. I have also made guides for most of these in the past, so I will include them in the description. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your favorite drink and snack, and let's begin. We are going to start with Moons of Peril. In my guide, I showed myself doing this with a scythe, and while I understand that's super expensive for a lot of people, all you need here to do pretty efficiently is a zombie hasta, a zombie axe, and a whip or even a tentacle whip if you want to upgrade your damage. Now, you definitely do need the best combat style against each of the Naguas if you want to do as much damage as possible, so that's why we are bringing 3 weapons with melee only, and then of course your gear and your armor, jewelry is going to depend on how much money you have. From one of my previous videos, you can expect about 300 to 500 KGP per hour with no uniques. However, because of the unique chances 1 in 14, you could walk away with a couple of very expensive pieces of armor for each of the Naguas, and this is only going to add to your profit, and it is a great place to start our journey money making with these bosses, with one of the newest ones in the game. The Corrupted Gauntlet has been a staple for money making pretty much since its introduction with Song of the Elves. As you all know, you need literally 0 GP to start in this place, and as long as you have good levels, decent game knowledge, and of course if you have unlocked the Rigor and Augury, you're going to be able to make a ton of money from this place, even without uniques. Remember that a lot of your profit is going to come from your crystal shards, which you're able to grind and then make the best and the most profitable divine potion that you can make. For example, the best at the current moment is the Divine Super Combat Potion, which of course requires a pretty high herblore level, but that is going to be well worth it for all the money that you can make here. Even without the uniques, the Enhanced Crystal Weapon Seed, the Crystal Armor Seed, and the Normal Weapon Seeds, you're looking at anywhere between 1 to 1.5 mil GP, and while it doesn't sound like a lot, landing one of those crystal seeds is going to make a ton of profit depending on where your bank is at. Spoiler alert, all of the Desert Treasure 2 bosses are going to be seen in this video, but we are going to start with the Leviathan. I place this in this category because it is going to be a little more consistent GP per hour and it doesn't really need that much gear. We're going to start with a Dragon Crossbow, and then you're able to upgrade to a Bofa, which nowadays isn't really, that expensive, especially with all the items you need to make it powerful. And personal preference, I like to use a Zerite Crossbow, because even if the Bofa is a little bit more consistent damage, I am a big fan of seeing those 110s with a Zerite Crossbow, but the only downside is that you're kind of going to need Masori to make this, super powerful, but a Dragon Crossbow Bofa is going to do just fine. Remember that the perfect KCs are going to be nice in order to increase your profit per hour, because you're going to get 50% extra normal loot from the Leviathan, not including the uniques, and you're seeing it anywhere between 2 to 2.5 million, even if you don't get anything crazy from it. A boss I haven't killed too much because I'm a little scared of the wilderness is Spindle. However, as long as you have an Ursine Chain Mace, a Bludgeon, or a Zombie Axe in that order from best to worst, all you need in your gear are things like Proselytes, a Dwarven Helmet, maybe bring a Torture, Ferocious Gloves, basically have 3 extra items that you can keep in case a PKer gets you, and you're going to be getting anywhere between 2 to 3 mil GP per hour, again, not counting the uniques that you can get from Spindle. I believe nowadays the only super expensive item that you can get from it is the part of the Voidwaker, which even without it, you're still going to make a pretty decent significant GP, because as we all know, the wilderness should always be high risk versus high reward, and honestly, this is pretty much one of the easiest bosses that you can kill, even if it's in the wilderness. Like I said in one of my previous videos, you cannot make a money-making guide without including Vorkath. This has been, and I believe will always be, one of the most consistent moneymakers in the entire game, and it surprises me that it's still true to this day. You can do this with the two approaches. You can go melee and you need a fang or a lance. However, be aware that you will need slightly higher gear to do more consistent damage, things that are going to aid you in your DPS. If you want to go the ranging route, pretty much all you need, the most important things in your inventory and your gear, are going to be a Dragon Hunter crossbow with ruby and diamond bolts, your Salve Amulet EI, and your Elite Void armor. Other than this, you can have whatever potions, items that you want in your inventory. You can go check out my guide, and you can make anywhere between 2.5 to 3.5 mil GP per hour. And this one is actually true because Vorkath doesn't have a lot of unique, well, I mean, it does have uniques, but they're not super expensive, and as long as you get them, it's going to increase your profits. But we are basically looking at all of the standard loot from Vorkath to make massive GP per hour. For the next category, I just have to include Vardorvis here, because even if his drops pale in comparison with the other Desert Treasure 2 bosses, if and when eventually you see that altar vestige on the ground, your bank is going to be extremely happy. Even if you don't get it for a few hundred or, God forbid, a few thousand KC, the normal drops that you get from this are going to be a little hit or miss. You can get some javelins, some bronze items, and maybe a lot of supply drops. But eventually when you get some of the good drops, even if you get the plus 50% from a perfect KC, which I highly recommend, you are going to be making a lot more than what you input with your supplies, and you're definitely going to be walking out with some decent profit. But not only that, you are going to become a much better player if you do those perfect KCs. And speaking about consistent drops, one boss that is going to give you better loot overall, even if you don't get perfect KCs, is going to be Duke Succulus. The great thing about this one is that even if you don't have a Soul Reaper axe or a scythe, you don't have to cope with an Arclight anymore, because with the introduction of armored zombies, we now have the Zombie Axe. This is basically the best in slot weapon that you can use by not even buying some of the most expensive weapons in the game, but I do recommend you upgrade as soon as possible if you are looking to get a Duke pet. We are aiming for anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5 mil GP per hour, because Duke Succulus has a ton of good drops, and I can honestly count the bad drops with, just the fingers on my hand, which include a few bronze items, and the rest is going to be great, and again, recommended to get perfect KCs to get 50% extra loot along all of those uniques. The Phantom Muspa is not as profitable as when it came out, because the Ancient Essence has definitely dropped a lot. However, even without the Venator shards, you're going to make a lot of money from the regular drops. Now, when you start out, I do recommend either a Dragon Crossbow with an Ancient Scepter, and you can then upgrade to a Bofa with a Trident, or maybe things like a Sanguinesti Staff to heal a little bit. And without the mega weapons, which are Tibo and Shadow, we are looking at a few kills per hour that are going to land anywhere between 2 to 3 mil GP per hour. Now, unlike Vorkath, the expensive item that is going to be a Veni Shard is a lot more common, and this is going to be super expensive that you can sell on the Grand Exchange to upgrade your gear as soon as possible. And other than this one, I do recommend, if you want to grab one mega weapon for this one, buy a Tibo and learn the step back method, because it is going to be super effective against the ranged Muspa. With the melee one, it's going to take a little bit, but it's definitely nice if you want to buy one, either the Tibo or the Shadow. I am placing the Whisperer last because if you kill her with a Trident or a Sanguinesti Staff, you are not going to get that many KC per hour, and this is not that great because this boss actually has the best common overall drops out of all the Desert Treasure 2 bosses. Again, even if you don't get any of the uniques. I do definitely recommend camping something else in order for you to make enough money for a Shadow, and then if you want to make even more money, or maybe do a Shadow rebuild, the Whisper is going to be absolutely insane to do this. Because, again, with any uniques, you're seeing anywhere between 2.5 to 4 mil GP per hour, and that is going to be increased a lot more by getting either the Bellator Vestige or the Virtus pieces, which are definitely the most common at the Whisper. So, if you have a Mega Weapon, go for a Shadow. You don't have to do Tombs of a Mascot. If you want a little bit more consistent GP per hour, if it's not out of a purple from a chest, Whisper is definitely the place to come. The pinnacle of consistent solo money making as of the time of making this video is being able to defeat the Fortis Colosseum and the Soul Heredit at least twice per hour. If you're starting out and if you're practicing, I do recommend either a Tentacle Whip, a Blade of Saildor, and when you make enough money, the most important item is going to be a Scythe. Remember that this is going to help you beat the Soul Heredit the faster, it goes, the shorter the battle is, and the less the chances at you dying. Why is this method so busted? Is that, as most of you know, you can now trade in your quiver for a ton of Sunfire Splinters, which at the time of making this video, without even counting the quiver, you get anywhere between 2 to 3 mil GP per hour in normal loot, and if you trade in your quiver, this is going to give you anywhere between 6 to 10 million GP per hour. If you want to get better at the game, being able to clear the Fortis Coliseum on command, which I'm still not good enough to do, but I'm getting there, is going to be one of the best moneymakers in the entire game that doesn't rely on big ticket items, so this is your cue to get good at the game. And now we jump onto the controversial part of the video, and why do I say that is because we're gonna look at 5 bosses that require their uniques in order to make a great GP per hour, otherwise you're not really gonna make that much or even lose GP per hour. And speaking of, we're gonna start with the Phosani's Nightmare. I do recommend a bludgeon, either an Inquisitor's Mace, or again, if you have a scythe, this is going to be another good place to use it. However, not for the rebuild, because the Phosani's Nightmare, if you don't get a unique, those drops are going to be absolutely terrible, not even going to be able to replenish whatever you spent in order to get the KC. Now, the important thing to mention about this one is that, again, as of the time of making this video, Jagex is proposing a little buff to the Inquisitor's armor, and also a rebalance to the Phosani's Nightmare, which is going to make the uniques a little bit more common. This might mean that they are going to decrease in price, but if you're able to see them more commonly, that basically means more GP per hour, or profit, that you're going to be able to get by clearing one of the most intricate fights in the entire game. The opposite of difficult and intricate is definitely going to be Commander Ziliana. As long as you have a Dragon Crossbow with Diamond Bolts, when you are able to upgrade to a Bofa, and if you have a T-Bow, or if you want to do a T-Bow rebuild, this is definitely a great place to start. Saradomin is kind of a weird place because even without the uniques, you're not really going to be making a ton of money, or even things that you want to keep in your inventory. So here is where we are banking on getting either the Saradomin hilt or the Armadillo Crossbow in order to make some money. However, you can alch some of the things that you get, and as long as you run around the clockwise, counterclockwise here, I definitely need to make a Saradomin guide in the future, which is going to be pretty easy to follow. Definitely come here if you have a T-Bow, and if you want to try your luck at some expensive Godward's Dungeon uniques. And speaking about Godward's Dungeon, Kriara is next on our list. If you didn't really make a lot of GP with Commander Ziliana, Kriara is going to be much worse. Some of the trash items include Rune Crossbows, Dwarf Wheat Seeds, and maybe some bird nests that you're not really even going to pick up if you have a full inventory. So most of your profit is going to come from those Armadillo pieces that people basically use to upgrade to Fortified Masori. And the great thing about this one is that both the pieces, the top and the bottom, the helmet is also kind of expensive nowadays. All of them are going to be great for your bank if you're looking to make a lot of GP. Now, if you have a Dragon Crossbow with a Diamond Bolts, that's not really recommended, but you could potentially start there. A better method is going to be using Black Chinchompas and basically doing the collateral damage method with the melee minion. And if you have a lot more money, again, if you want to do a Shadow rebuild, this is going to be a decent place to do it. However, not decent because, as I said before, this is not consistent GP. We are looking at big ticket items that you could potentially get eventually with Kriara. If you want a rush of adrenaline with your team because of an expensive drop, Nex is one of the best places to do so. Pretty much every single Torva piece, the Nihil Horn, and the Zerite Band Braces, if you get a split for one of these, is going to make massive GP per hour. And the good thing about this is that these drops are not that uncommon for the amount of time that it takes to do it. However, be advised that just like the Phosani's Nightmare, Nexus normal drops are not as bad as Phosani, but are still not really even going to pay for your supplies. So be advised that whenever you come in here, just picture all of your potions and like all of your food going to waste, but eventually when you get one of those big ticket items, this is definitely going to pay out and you're going to make a ton of money for your next upgrade. We are closing out the video with one of my favorite activities in the game, the Tombs of a Mascot. Either solo or with a team, if you see a purple at the end of the raid, it is going to feel absolutely insane, as long as it's not a ring or a ward. We are looking at the Tumican Shadow, which is pretty much the second most expensive item in the entire game as of the time of making this video, and even a Masori top or bottom or even a Fang is going to be great for your bank. Even the white chests are not going to be that bad. From a 250 you can see anywhere between 150, 300 KGB, and from 350 pluses from white chests I have personally seen anywhere between 800k to upwards of 1.5 mil GP if you get a really lucky roll with the normal loot that you're able to get from the chests. The only downside, as most of the raid encounters in this game, is that you're gonna need a lot more gear, and for melee I recommend from Abi Dagger to Zami Hasta to a Fang. If you're doing range, to get a blowpipe, a bofa, or a T-bow eventually, and of course with magic, you need a trident, a Sanguinesi staff, and then build up to that shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you so much for coming and for making it this far. If you did and you want to enter our weekly bond giveaway, tell me what your favorite boss encounter in the game is and why it makes so much money, how much money have you made so far, or what you are looking forward to after watching this video. If you include the term RSN in your comment, you'll be eligible to our weekly bond giveaway on Friday or Saturday, depending on when I do it. And of course, I will contact you via your comment so we can coordinate the drop on Discord. I want to give a massive thank you to all the people that have decided to support this wonderful project. A little monetary pledge for the tiers that you see on screen. Thank you so much. My wife, my puppy, and I are eternally grateful. If you want to be part of this list of legends, click the join button below to see all the cool benefits that you can get in the videos, in the live streams, and of course in the Discord from this wonderful YouTube project. In the next one, I am not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing because there are still a lot of ideas that I am working on at once, but hopefully it is going to be a banger that you guys are looking forward to. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, have an amazing week, and I will see you then. Peace.